Welcome back, guys. And it is time. The time has finally come to go over Captain America and the Brave New World spoilers. And oh boy, it's going to be a doozy. I can't wait. But before we get into that, if you could please hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when my new videos drop. All you got to do is make a YouTube account, which is free. And then hitting the subscribe button is also free. It goes a long way in helping me out. Really appreciate it. And so this is going to be complete spoilers, just so everyone's on the same page. So, I think everything's pretty good. Let's get into it. I have taken notes. I'm just going to kind of go over the film. And, yeah, let's do it. Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched my non-spoiler review, just to give my overall thoughts, it sucked. Just check that out. And let's get into it. So let me see here. Like I said, I made some notes. So the film starts off, and basically I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes. Is that what they're called? Yeah, Cliff Notes. And that way you don't have to watch it. So we start off at the press conference. It's like the president just got elected. General Ross from the other movies. And he just got elected. He shaved his mustache. Changed the actor to Harrison Ford, and he's going out here and he's about to kind of give this speech, but he's the president now. And so, okay, so basically what they do is he gives this speech, and Falcon is kind of on this mission thingamajiggy to where he has to infiltrate these headquarters, and he has his sidekick with him. And this is when we're first introduced to, what's his name here, Mr. Breaking Bad guy. This guy right here. Now, there is a villain in this movie, and I just want to tell you who it is right now, because I want to know what you guys think about this. So, this guy's the villain, but there's a secret villain behind him, and it's the leader. Now, the leader is this guy, okay? And if you remember from the first Hulk movie, which they do reference at the very beginning of this movie, you know, in the Abomination, how the Abomination attacked the city and all that kind of stuff. The leader was this guy right here. And something happened, like he got knocked down on the table from that Hulk movie. He got knocked down on the table and there was some gamma stuff. And he was in it and it starts dripping in his brain. And he helps out Bruce Banner, but he's just this scientist guy, right? So, here's the thing. This is the leader from the comics. I got it pulled up on my Snappa website. I use this to edit some stuff. I gotta pay for it, which kind of blows chunks, but it's okay. It helps me out. And so this is what the leader looks like, okay? So this is what he looks like in the comics. You want to see what he looks like in the movie? Oh, yes. Yes. Comics. Movie version. Now, it doesn't look very accurate to me. It looks kind of like his brain is, you know, fried out of his skull, and it's, you know, that's what happened, the gamma. Essentially, what's going on, just to spoil the living hell out of all this, because I don't know how much patience I'm going to have. The leader has the ability in the movie to be able to see all, how did he put it? All probabilities. So he says things like, there's an 80% chance of this happening, and I can see the calculations for everything. Lands flat. I do not believe for a single second that this guy's capable of actually being intelligent. Throughout the movie, he is not an intelligent person at all. He does a few things that are interesting a little bit later on, which I thought, okay, well, that's something. But he really does just come across as just a dork. Like, I don't know if it's the actor or if it's the way they wrote him. I don't know what it is, but it's sad. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'll let you just ponder that. Anyways, the movie continues, and let me just check my notes here. So Falcon and his sidekick the Falcon, the two Falcons, Captain African America and the Falcon, they have to infiltrate this facility and get back something. I think it's vibranium, which is the other big spoiler, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so this main guy, the guy from Breaking Bad, is there, and Falcon shows up. There's some fighting that goes on. It's mid. The crazy thing is you see the shot in the trailer whenever Falcon goes down from the sky, and then he lands on the ground, and then there's like this shockwave because of the air and stuff, like something that even Superman couldn't do. And this is what I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, how insane it is for his suit, for it to be able to do certain things. So his suit is vibranium that we learned from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it can do more stuff now. Like, for one, he's got the automatic helmet now, the Ant-Man helmet that covers his face back and forth, back and forth. It's so stupid annoying. Oddly enough, his partner, his sidekick, Falcon number 2, he doesn't have that. He just puts on his helmet like a normal person. And they're fighting, and you can tell that he doesn't have powers throughout this sequence. He struggles a bit, and his suit does cover some of the slack, but there's kind of this combination when it comes to the battles, with him using the wings and the shield, and kind of jumping and flipping around while he's doing that. I don't think it works. I think it just looks kind of sloppy. Some of the shots are okay, but it just doesn't gel right. Whenever you have the wings, it doesn't look right when it's super tight indoors, and then you're slinging around the shield. They just don't pair very well together, but they try to make it somewhat believable. And he wins, he succeeds, and there's some hostages, and he saves the hostages, and they basically succeed the mission. So, things continue onward, and after the mission is finished, what we have is Falcon wants to take Falcon number 2, his sidekick. Captain America, I keep forgetting. By the way, I mentioned in my non-spoiler review that this movie goes out of its way to every single constant waking second to say, hey, this is Captain America. It is just constantly, hey Cap, hey Captain, hey, Captain America. And then on the TV, Captain America succeeded. I think there's some kind of time skip. I want to say it's about 2 years or so since the last time we saw these idiots. Anyways, so Captain African America takes his sidekick Falcon to see his mentor and teacher. And he's the black guy who we saw from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, this black guy, his backstory, if you didn't watch that TV show, count your lucky stars. Basically, the country was very, very racist. And so this guy had super soldier serum, and he was the first guy to be given super soldier serum before Steve Rogers. But because he was black, they couldn't have a black guy do it, and so they locked him up in jail because he was but anyways, and so he's out, and he's famous now. He's not doing nothing, but he hates the country, and he's Captain African America's mentor, and he's super strong. They give it a point to show he's way stronger than Steve Rogers, because they go to this place. It's like an old boxing kind of gym, you know, like it has the boxing arena and it has the boxing gloves. Do you remember when we saw Captain America when he got out of the ice and he was hitting the boxing thing, you know, and he would hit it and hit it and hit it, and then that last punch he'd give it all he's got and it would knock it down on the ground? Yeah, this guy's like 10 times more powerful. Isaiah is his name. And so Isaiah takes one of these, you know, it's hanging from the ceiling, and he punches it halfway, and it slings across the room like the Hulk, like just knocks it off the thing like the Hulk hit it. So he's super powerful. Of course he is. So they're chatting. Sam kind of does this little sparring with him back and forth. It's whatever. And then the president calls Sam and says, hey, I want you to come to the White House. And Sam's like, all right, but you got to let me bring Isaiah. And so he tells Isaiah, and Isaiah's like, this is racist, and he really doesn't like General Ross. Now, there is credibility for none of them to like General Ross. they can kind of get away with it because General Ross has been featured in the other films, different actor, but he instituted the Sokovia Accords. He's always been against Bruce. He hasn't been a very nice guy, so they have animosity towards him, and that does make sense. That does make sense. So they show up to the White House, and then they meet. Is she there? Yes, this girl. Is she there? I don't think she's introduced just yet. She's about to be introduced. So they show up to the White House. We do get introduced to Little Miss Thing here. I don't know her name, but she's the president's assistant, and she's throughout the movie like every other scene. Like, she's really good friends with Sam. She helps the president. There's a really stupid scene with her at the end when it comes to action. It's like, who is this chick? But she's in like half the movie. I don't even know her name. But they show up to the White House. And so what happens is they go into that room that we see into the trailer. And it's that room where they're all around there, and the president is kind of giving this debriefing where there's a bunch of people from all the nations in that room. And I say all the nations. There's like the Dalai Lama or some dumb shit. I don't know who he's from. And then there's China, or Japan, I'm sorry. And then some, I think, France. And that's the only ones that are mentioned, actually, because they're brought up later. And none of the other nations are mentioned. It's just those three. But the room is full. And the president gets up, and he says, he talks about, and you guys probably never watched The Eternals. I mean, let's just be honest. If you never watched The Eternals, it's a story about a bunch of idiots with superpowers, and by the end of the movie, we find out the Earth is an egg, and a Celestial, I think, is about to hatch out of it, but then a white guy called Icarus flies into the sun and kills himself, and saves the day. And so the big creature is in this ocean, but it's dead now, I guess. And so it's like this giant being, this giant celestial being, and it's in the Indian Ocean, and his head is stuck out, and his arm is like reaching in the air, and he's like the size of a continent, okay? Well, they discover that this celestial has a specific kind of metal, and it's adamantium, the same stuff that Wolverine got shot up his bum. And adamantium, and they say it's more powerful than the Wakanda juice. What is it called? The vibranium. That it's even better, and we all need to get it. And everyone in the world is after it. And I say everyone in the world, I mean America, Japan, the Dalai Lama, and Paris. I don't know where everyone else is, but that's it. So they're in this room, and the president is up there saying this stuff. And then all of a sudden, Isaiah, who's in there with him, and he got invited with them, and Sam wanted him to come because, you know, reasons. He gets up, grabs the gun from the security guard, and tries to shoot the president, but he misses. And so there's a couple other guys that get up, and they try to shoot the president too. They all miss. Everyone saves the day. And wee little miss here. We're introduced to wee little miss. And she starts knocking guys down left and right. I'm talking about like Black Widow tier 2. And we find out later on in the movie that she knows Black Widow and that she was a part of the stuff that was going on with Black Widow. So maybe she's a widow. I don't know. I wasn't paying too much attention to that part. But there's some kind of connection there. But she's about 4'5", and she sounds like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even replicate her voice. It's like, I don't know. Now, I don't know if it's a speech impediment, which I would feel bad for, or if it's just her accent. I don't know. She's like from somewhere. Maybe it's a combination of both, but she sounds very, very off. Like she sounds, I don't know, like it's not intimidating. It's not strong. It's very weak and very memeable and very funny. Well, she starts knocking these guys out and fighting everyone, and Sam's in there trying to figure out what's going on, and they're all fighting and trying to get these guys down, and Isaiah takes off and he leaves. So Sam catches up with them, And there's this funny scene because Sam doesn't have superpowers. Isaiah jumps out the window and he jumps down on the concrete, and I'm Sam goes outside and he looks down and sees Isaiah, who jumped down like a super soldier could. I mean, it's a good drop, and he just, very believable for a super soldier. Sam looks down because he's not wearing a suit or anything, and he goes around and takes the stairs. I was like, oh no. and Steve Rogers, oh gosh, he would have been bolting after him. He would have jumped right off that balcony. It would have been like, oh my gosh, like when he went after Bucky. Oh man. Well, Sam has to take the stairs. And so he catches up with Isaiah somehow. Explain that. And then all the cops show up, and Sam is like, whoa, just, okay, calm down, Isaiah. And Isaiah doesn't remember anything. He's like, I can't go back into peeing, man. And he's like, it's fine. Just, it'll be worse if you don't surrender. So they arrest Isaiah. So everyone's freaking out, and everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. So the Dalai Lama, or whatever country he represents, I don't know, and Paris are on the phone with President Trump, I guess. I don't know if they were going for that angle or not. But they're on the phone with Harrison Ford. And they're like, yo, we almost died. And Harrison Ford is like, I know, but be patient. and Japan doesn't want to talk right now. And so Sam shows up into the room. He shows up into the room where the president is. And wee little Miss is there. And so he's like, yo, what happened? And the president, I almost forgot. Before all this, when the president initially called Sam to the White House, the reason why he asked him to be there is to restart the Avengers. He says, I want you to restart the Avengers, and it'll be good for everyone. And Sam's like, well, but weren't you the one who started the Sokovia Accords? You tore us apart. And President Ford is just like, it's fine. It'll be fine. And so there's that. So Sam now, after all this mess is done, he goes into the office. And wee little Miss is there. Sam's like, do you mind? Can you get out? And she's like, nah. I'm not kidding. And Harrison Ford is pissed. And he's like, yo, your friend just tried to kill me. What happened? And Sam takes his side and he's like, well, I know he stole a gun and tried to shoot you point blank range, but he's innocent. Trust me. This is wrong. And the president's like, hey, you know all that stuff I said about the Avengers? I take it back. I don't want to do that anymore. And Sam's like, really? And then the president, we saw that line from the trailer where he's like, you're not Steve Rogers. In the trailer, I believe Sam responds to him and says, you're right, I'm not. Well, he doesn't say that in the movie. He just stands there and takes it hard. And so that conversation is over. So Sam is now on this mission to prove Isaiah's innocence. So he goes to see Isaiah. He goes to talk with him, and Isaiah doesn't remember anything. And they're kind of going over what Isaiah said. Isaiah's like, man, there's something on my phone. It was flashing, and that's the last thing I remember. And wee little Miss here is like watching the security footage because Sam believes Isaiah's innocence. She doesn't right now. She's real snarky in the very beginning. So that goes on. And as Sam is trying to find out what's happening and researching all this, Mr. Breaking Bad guy, where is he? This guy right here. Mr. Breaking Bad guy. He shows back up because whenever Sam initially attacked that building where the terrorists were and he was trying to get that stolen adamantium, and Mr. Breaking Bad was there, he got away. And Sam was about to get his butt whooped by some other dude. Well, Mr. Breaking Bad shows up, and he just almost kills Sam instantly. We get that shot in the trailer where he kind of turns around, and there's that car that explodes behind him. That's this guy attacking Sam on the street where Sam is just driving in his truck. This guy finds him and attacks him. This guy almost kills him multiple times. This was the lamest fight in the entire movie. This guy who is like 60, and he's a great actor. But he's like, this should have been like the main villain. I mean, seriously, he's a guy behind the scenes. But he's out there doing combat with Captain America, and he stabs Captain America in the chest and in the stomach. And Sam, he shakes it off like he's a super soldier. Like he gets stabbed, and it's like he doesn't even register it. And the guy starts to get away, and then he has to hide, and then he fights again, and then has to hide, and then they go in this junkyard. Sam is there, knives in him, and he does something so stupid. He takes this car battery and pours piss all over it or something, and it starts to smoke, and then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, the entire park, this junkyard, has this yellow-green smoke everywhere, which I guess, I don't know, I've never poured piss on a battery before, but I don't think it would create that much smoke, but it does. And so Sam emerges from the mist and beats this guy and knocks him down, and I guess takes him captive somewhere because he doesn't kill him. Oh, by the way, in this fight, this is one of those instances when Sam tries to reason with his terrorist opponents, and the guy, after he tries to kill him and attacks him, and he's like on the ground and Sam has him cornered, Sam tries to appeal to his sense of justice and says, just give up, it's okay, turn yourself in and we can be best friends. And this guy, Mr. Breaking Bad, is like, he said that you would say there's an 80% chance that you would try to reason with me. And it's like, oh, okay, so who are you talking about? Well, he's talking about the leader. The leader told him that there was like an 80% chance that Sam would try to suck his balls instead of just taking him in. And that's exactly what happens. Well, Sam eventually takes him in. The fight's over. He goes back to his sidekick, Falcon, and he's just patched up. He's fine. And it's just like, I don't know. I could easily see Steve Rogers doing that. Easily. I could see Tom Walker doing that. I could see Mr. Isaiah Forgotten. Because they're super soldiers. But, I mean, he was like stabbed. And then in the gut, there was like this axe. And I was like, man, you sure did shake that off pretty well. So, I don't know. So, that goes on. The president's trying to keep the peace. Japan doesn't want to play ball. Japan feels like there's something up. And let's see. So what ends up happening is the president gets a phone call. And he gets a phone call from the leader. Not this guy. This guy. He gets a phone call from this guy. So what's happened is back in that original Hulk movie, when the Hulk and the Abomination were getting and doing the dirty, and this guy had goo juice in his brain, and he became the leader. General Ross at the time, found out that made him a genius, and he takes the leader, and he locks him away, and he uses the leader's mind to basically get ahead in politics. And the leader helps him by doing all this stuff to help him win the election and gain favor from everyone. And General Ross promises him that if he does that he'll eventually let him go. So that's the bargain they struck. He would let him go whenever he became president. Well, he became president, and he's still locked up, Mr. Leader here. And so this guy starts pulling the strings behind the scenes, and he's been planning and plotting and stuff. And he calls the president. He calls the president on his phone and basically says, hey, you've pissed me off and you double-crossed me. I'm going to get mine, and I've been, preparing for this, and you're screwed, in other words. Now, no one knows this. No one knows the secret that the president has kept this guy locked up in secret. So he calls the president and threatens him. And after that, you have Sam, Captain African America, and then his partner, the Falcon. They do some research, and they figure out the signal, excuse me, the signal that was sent on those phones, where it came from. So what the leader was been doing is that the leader has somehow gotten a hold of Gamma stuff, Gamma gummy bears, Gamma little gummy bean things, and the people who eat them put Gamma in their body, and the leader can trigger them with a song. I forget what song it is. It's a popular song. It's an older song. I think it was played in another movie. But the leader can trigger, and by playing that song, they turn into these mindless drones and do whatever he says. I didn't like this because I thought it was stupid. It's mind control, sure, but there's a lot of people in this movie who, it's like, how did the leader get a hold of you? You know, there's a group later on of just SWAT teams who work for the president. It's like, how did you guys all eat the gummy bears? You know, and the song plays and they're all mind controlled. But then the guys working for Falcon and Falcon, they're not mind controlled because they didn't have the gummy bears. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, how did he have so much reach? I guess you could explain it. Maybe he controlled someone who controlled someone and they spread all the gummy bears and stuff. But he played the song, and that's what happened at that conference. Isaiah was there, and I don't know how Isaiah ate a gummy bear and he had Gamma stuff inside of him, but somehow they never explain it. And if they did, I wasn't paying attention. But him and a couple other guys had it on their phone. That song played, and it turned them into murder machines. And so Falcon 1 and Falcon 2 track that signal to this warehouse of where the leader is. They sneak in, they meet the leader, and he shows his face here, and he's like, nah, look at me, I'm the bad guy, nah. And there's a fight, when it's a piss poor fight. I mean, it's with the soldiers. Remember in the preview, whenever the soldiers, and they take the batons and they try to like pin Sam down. He's not wearing a suit, by the way. He doesn't have any gear. He has a shield and that's it. And he almost gets whooped. They all almost die. But somehow they all get out and the leader escapes. And Little Miss here, Little Miss shows up. And the best part about the whole movie happens. Oh, I hit my thing. So they're leaving, and they're in this hallway. And a huge group of soldiers show up. There's like 10 of them. And she shows up behind them. She's got her hair down now. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm like Black Widow. And she calls out to him because she's on the other side. The soldiers are going toward Falcon 1 and Falcon 2. And then she calls out and she says, eh. Like, that's how she sounds. It's like, eh. And they all turn around and she's like, eh. And the Falcon and Falcon are just like, what are you doing here? And she's like, eh. And she goes through and mows them down. Like, with her fist. She's jumping around. I'm not kidding, man. She grabs one of them and flips him to the air, just lifts him up and body slams him, almost basically choke slam the guy. And there's like some scenes where like she'll hit one guy and then the camera turns and it's like she jumps in the frame and it's like, well, that's a different person, obviously. It's good stuff. It's the best scene of the movie. You're gonna be bawling. I was watching that and I was just like, oh my gosh. Have they learned nothing? So it was great. It was my personal favorite part. So she saves them, and then they escape, and they get out, and it's good stuff. And they're like, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, I believe you now. And they're like, oh, okay, well, let's all work together. So now they have a team. Now it's Falcon 1, Falcon 2, and Little Miss. And so they're going along. Oh, what happens next? So the president meets up with Chang-Chi from China. And Chang-Chi is like, hey, I know you're doing nasty stuff. I don't know, like, you set that up. You're evil. I can't trust you. And Harrison Ford is like, yeah, you can. And Chang-Chi is like, nah, I've got paper. Here, see, in this document. Stuff. I don't know. But he's pissed. He doesn't feel like he can trust the president. And so, that conversation happens. Let's see. They escape. The president... By the way, throughout the whole movie, the president is kind of taking these pills, these gummy bears. And he reveals later it's because the leader saved him. It's for his heart. He was dying. He needed the leader's help. and the leader found him a cure, so he's taking the gummy bears. So, Falcon and Falcon 2 go to their base, and they have Mr. Breaking Bad locked up there. He's just hanging out. Now, I don't know how... I guess these are like his personal men. Like, the Falcon is working with these group of soldiers that I guess are loyal to the Falcon. I don't know. But they got his back, you know? And they're doing what he says. And they've got Mr. Breaking Bad here just tied up at their base. And so, you know, it's like all off the books, I guess. So, Captain African America goes to Mr. Breaking Bad here, and he says, talk. What's the leader doing? How's he doing this? What's happening? Asks him some questions. And he's like, well, give me a deleted sentence and my jail time and I'll tell you. And Falcon's like, I don't know. And so Breaking Bad's like, good enough then, I guess I'll tell you. So he spills the beans and tells him the leader, and there's the code, you know, the song, and that the pills and stuff. So Falcon has the pills analyzed. I don't think we see Mr. Breaking Bad again after that. So here's the leader's plan. And I think Mr. Breaking Bad reveals this to African America. And so what happens is remember that giant alien in the ocean? I know. With giant adamantium. Well, what happens is you have all these nations who want it. When I say all the nations, I mean those 4 I mentioned. And the Dalai Lama and Paris are nowhere to be found. They're just screwed off. So they're no longer in the movie, I guess. But now it's Japan and America. Japan doesn't trust America. So they're there. And they feel like the fight and the assassination was all a setup. And Japan wants to get the adamantium. And the president doesn't want that to happen. And so you have Japan and America with their ships circling around the giant dead alien for the adamantium. And the leader's plan is that when they come together and they're trying to get the adamantium, that he sets off Harrison Ford, that there's so much pressure from this outbreak that could be war, that Harrison Ford turns into the Red Hulk and attacks the ships. And in doing so, the world will see who the Hulk is. I guess, I don't know, I thought the idea of pitting Japan and America in this conflict for this major resource was an interesting idea. I didn't really see how the leader set that up from that one assassination attempt. I guess you could say that he gave the documents to the Japan guys, the president of Japan, and they was sowing division. So he kind of sets this stuff up, kind of. Overall, I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. And you're setting this conflict, the idea of changing the president into the Red Hulk so that people all know how evil he is. I guess it makes sense because the leader was abandoned and locked up in prison and hated General Ross. It was clunky, but I thought, well, they're screwed. Because when they get to the ocean, the leader, in order to ensure his victory, he has mind-controlled some of the pilots. And he uses the U.S.'s resources and some of the pilots, and he shoots missiles at the Japanese. And I'm thinking, well, it's done. He's won. They're there for this adamantium. America's shooting missiles. Japan doesn't trust America already. It's done. So how do they get out of this? Does the leader win? Do they start a war? No. So what happens is Falcon shows up with Falcon number 2. Falcon shows up with Falcon number 2, and Little Miss is with them. And only 2 pilots, I guess, are mind-controlled. And so whenever they shoot at the Japanese, Falcon and Falcon fly out, and they say, they fly over to like the Japanese jets in the sky, and they knock on their window, and they're like, hey, it's cool. Relax. And so they take down the American jets. And this is, I'm telling you, man, this is where things get stupid. This is where things hit the fan. So Falcon is like indestructible. His wings are like god tier. He's using his wings to slice through missiles. I'm not kidding. And he's like out flying fighter jets, and his wings are turning purple, and he's flipping around, and they're like blowing up in his face. And I'm like, oh, damn, you can do all that? Yeah, apparently. It takes me back to that first Iron Man movie. When Iron Man, when he was in the sky, sure, Mark I armor, I guess, but still, and he was struggling against those fighter jets. He had to crawl up underneath one and radio Rhodey and be like, hey, don't kill me. And he was struggling, and he'd like get hit by a missile, and he'd fall to the ground. Nothing for Falcon. Falcon can outfly them. He can outfly the jets and the missiles. He can slice them and dice them and blows up in their face. And so all that happens. Well, his sidekick, Falcon number 2, is out there. And Falcon number 2 is blowing up missiles too. Well, Falcon number 2 thinks he's indestructible like Falcon number 1. And so Falcon number 2, this guy right here, Mexican Falcon, he decides to shoot a missile in the face. A missile is flying towards him, and he plays chicken with it, and he waits until he gets right up close to it, and he pulls out his arm gun and shoots it right in the face. Doesn't go very well. And so it blows up in his face, it blows off one of his wings, and he falls down into the ocean. Now, I was shocked by this. Not because of the sheer stupidity of him doing that, but I was shocked, honestly, because I thought, well, it's about time. I mean, they're literally up there, like, just dancing around with these missiles. I was like, how are they doing this? So when he finally blows up from a missile, he survives, by the way, don't worry. I'm like, wow. Bingo, good shot. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. I was waiting for something like that to happen. So they fish him out later. And so Falcon 1, Captain African America, goes and stops the last jet that's, I guess, heading toward the ship that Harrison Ford decided to be on out there with them too. And Harrison Ford is pissing himself. He's about to turn into the Red Hulk because the leader calls him and says, yeah, aren't you mad? I want everyone to see who you are. And he's about to turn red, but then he calms down and he doesn't do it on the boat. By the way, before I forget, one of the stupidest things about the leader in this whole movie is he apparently has the ability to teleport off screen. At one moment, he's at the or the prison. How he leaves, I don't know. And then after that, he's at this guy's house in another town. He shoots him and kills him and borrows their phone. And then after that, he teleports to this military base and turns these guys and uses this little sound gadget thing and kills them. And then teleports away. It's like, how is this guy getting around? It was annoying. Oh man, we're almost done. We're almost through it, guys. The third act is coming. So, they go through. I guess everyone's friends now because Harrison Ford called Japan for like the third time, and he says, hey, we had rogue pilots, don't kill us, we're all friends. And Japan's like, it's all good now. So I guess that conflict resolves off screen. I don't know, it doesn't show who gets the adamantium, it doesn't show that conversation. It's just like they're trying to kill each other, and now all of a sudden everything's fine. Japan just forgives them, I guess. So there's that. And we go into the third act. Alright. So, African America goes to the hospital. And Falcon number 2 is in the hospital, almost dead. And we have our guest appearance from Bucky. Bucky shows up, and they're standing outside the window looking into the room. And, Excuse me. And they're wondering if what's-his-name is going to wake up. And so Bucky's just in it for like 5 minutes. And he basically... Here's the interesting part. And it was the most interesting thing that I wanted to hear. And then by the end of the conversation, I was just like, really? Really? So, African America feels bad because he let his partner down. And he brings up the serum. And he says, man, I just feel like, I don't know, like, Captain America took the serum and you have the serum and I just didn't take it and I don't know. And Bucky's, what does he say? He says something, it just didn't land at all. He gives like this miniature speech, which, I'm sorry, Captain America, if he really is, should be the one giving speeches. But no, Bucky gives this speech, and so Bucky basically tells him, like, because you don't have any powers, you're basically better than Cap. Because Captain America, people looked up to him, but for you, people will aspire to be you. And I think the angle they were going for is Captain America, they looked up to him because he was Captain America, but he had powers. But you don't have powers, and you're Captain America, so people can aspire to be you. Yeah, because whoa, I'm sure no one aspired to be Captain America with Steve Rogers. It didn't land at all, and it was just like, what? And when they're having this conversation, Sam never really gives a reason why he didn't take the serum. He's just like, I watched it and I was just like, what? I don't know. I'm trying to think about what is his reasoning, and this was the biggest problem with the whole film for me. It's that he's empty. He's shallow. I don't know who he is. He's just doesn't have a purpose or a plan for doing anything. It's like he doesn't mention anything like why I didn't take the serum because I don't know. I guess I still could, maybe. I don't know. And Bucky tells him this, and it's like, why don't you take the serum? I mean, you're clearly at such a huge disadvantage quite a bit of the time because you're too stupid to bring your bird suit along. And it was a bad conversation. There's no good, other than that wee little thing that Bucky tells him, there's no real speech. There's nothing motivational in this movie where you're like, wow, that's Captain America. Yeah, you know, that inspiring kind of feeling, that good pride kind of feeling. There's nothing like that. Bucky's running for senator, by the way, or something like that. He goes to run, says he has a campaign rally. Whatever. Let's see how that works in the Thunderbolts. Little Miss shows up, and there's that. And then the Green Goblin here teleports to this base. Because if you remember, Captain African American gives the gummy bears to the soldiers and says, investigate them. The Green Goblin shows up and turns on this sound thing that busts people's ears. It also gives people random heart attacks. So the soldiers are there. It was a really choppy scene too. Because the soldiers show up to this facility where there's these buildings out, and they run up with these guns. And they get behind the buildings and stuff like they're taking cover, like they're getting ready to do an operation. And the main leader is there, and he runs up to this thing that he kneels beside, and then he gets a phone call from Captain Falcon, and he just gets up, takes his helmet off, throws his gun down, and walks over and just gets on the phone. He's like, "What's up, man?" I'm just like, aren't you guys like out here doing something? What are you doing? So he walks over on a cliff. Maybe it was a training exercise or something like that, and I missed it. But it looked like an active combat area, and I was just like, this guy just took that stuff up and just like, hey, how's it going? So the leader shows up, turns on his microphone thing. The guy falls down in front of them, and he dies. The soldier guy, and then the leader teleports out of there. So the leader's upset. By the way, there's this theme throughout the whole movie. For the love of God, we're almost done. Thank God. There's this theme throughout the whole movie where Harrison Ford misses his daughter. The daughter who's in love with Bruce Banner. And he tries to get a hold of her at the beginning of the movie. She's not talking to him. Well, after the boat thing, he calls her and she finally picks up. And he's like, I'd like to go on a walk with you at some time. Because their relationship is very estranged. And he's got this theme of he's trying to change. And so there's that. And so they're back at the White House. Apparently peace is in the world. The president's about to give a speech. We're in the third act. He goes up and he's about to give a speech to these people. And he's like, everything's good. The whole thing with the adamantium, it all worked itself out. So Sam is, I guess, at the hospital after he gets out of seeing Falcon number 2. And the leader teleports there. the leader talks to him. And he's just he looks like this. And he's just standing out there with some slacks. In the public area. I'm just like, what is going on? And the leader's like, I'm here. And Sam's like, the cops are going to show up and arrest you in like 2 seconds. And the leader's like, you foiled my plan. Now it's necessary for me to turn myself in. It's not. It's not at all. It was stupid. So Sam, there's some trash talk. And then the cops show up and arrest the leader. And basically, as the president's giving this speech, the leader's voice comes over the microphones. And he's like, nah, I want to see, people need to see how evil you are. The world needs to see the real you. And I guess he had this pre-recorded speech and got it. And then all the reporters on their phone are getting messages of how the leader has just been arrested. And he's testifying that you locked him up, Mr. President. That you imprisoned him. And I'm just like, wasn't that like 60 seconds ago? Like, they literally just arrested him. What do you mean he testified? What do you mean that he's reporting? He'd be on his way to jail. So there was no reason for him to be arrested. He just gave himself up. There was no point. So it was stupid. And so his recording comes in over the speakers. And it feels like it's out of nowhere. The president turns into the Red Hulk. Now, the leader tricked him because, again, the president had the heart problem, and he convinced him that he can help, and so the president trusted him for that deal to release him. And these gummy bears did heal his heart, but it was slowly seeping gamma radiation into the president so that it would get more and more and build up over time. Which, I don't know, make sense. Apparently, I guess they're special kind of gummy bears or something. And the president was taking it for his, medication, but he didn't know. And when he's there, he does show that he has a little bit of a temper throughout the movie. There's this one flashback scene where he kicks a podium. Really, throughout most of the movie, he's pretty self-contained. He gets a little agitated here and there. But then when the leader's voice comes on over the speakers, it feels very rushed. Because all these people and his assistant... Where is she? Black chick here shows up, and they're like, we need to get you out of here, because everyone's freaking out, and they hear the leader's voice over the microphones. And he just loses it. He's like, you can't tell me what to do! And he's just freaking out and just losing it. And they're trying to push him away, his security and this chick here, and he just explodes, and so he transforms into the Red Hulk. It felt very rushed to me. Even though they were sowing kind of seeds, the initial reaction that sparks his anger, I thought they could have done something like, hey, how about the leader calls the Red Hulk here, calls the president and says, hey, I got your daughter and I'm torturing her. Something like that. It just, something that would really set him off. Instead, he just gets on the speaker and he's like, everyone knows they're going to see the real you inside. And he just starts getting real angry. And I'm just like, that did it? Why did you need to get locked up for that? Why did you turn yourself in for that? And what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And so he sets him off. So he starts, destroying everything. He destroys the White House. And he's just angry and pissed off. The Red Hulk just starts going crazy. So the Falcon shows up in his ultimate super duper vibranium suit. And he fights against the Red Hulk. Now, I like the Red Hulk in the animation. I thought that he could have killed Sam at any moment. Steve Rogers wouldn't be able to face off against a Hulk. Thor could barely hold his own, and he's a god against the Hulk. So the idea that this little pissant adamantium suit stood up to him, it's just BS. Like, it was unbelievable. And there were times where the Red Hulk was just fierce. Like, his power was pretty fierce. He was destroying stuff. He was jumping across the landscape. He was fast. He was angry. It looked good. And it was like, okay. But Sam was going toe-to-toe with him and standing firm. And he was kind of shielding and blocking and maneuvering. But still, there were many times, like Sam, where he's uses his shields, to block and stuff. And he's holding up the shield, the Captain America shield, and the Red Hulk is like pummeling him. It's like, there's no way. I don't care if it's vibranium armor or not. That's insane. So the fight lasts for about 5 minutes, and that's about how long the Red Hulk is in the movie. So Sam leads him to this area where the president wanted to go on a walk with his daughter. I don't know how Sam would know that. But he leads him out near the edge of the lake or whatever, and there are these cherry blossoms and stuff because his daughter likes them. And the Red Hulk basically beats Sam, finally, tears his wings off, and everyone shows up, and the Red Hulk bursts out of the ground because Sam stabs him with his his right wing, stabs him in the gut, and then there's this vibranium shockwave, and the Red Hulk bursts out of the ground after that, and they're just like, oh crap, that didn't do it. And now I thought in my mind, okay, I see what they're doing. They have been hinting at the president's daughter throughout this movie, his estranged relationship, and how he wants to see her and reconnect with her. And this Red Hulk is angry and pissed, and nothing they're doing is succeeding. I thought she was going to show up the same way she did for Bruce Banner. I thought she was going to pull up in a car and say, "Dad, stop." And that would be the thing that calms him down. Well, they didn't do that. Instead, Sam calms him down. Sam sucks him off. He doesn't even say anything really inspirational. He's just like, "President, I know you want to change. Chill." And then the Red Hulk is just like, ugh. And then he goes back into Harrison Ford. That's how the fight ends. It's like, you missed a huge opportunity. And here's the kicker. At the end of the movie, she does show up. He gets locked up in the raft. He gets locked up, and she, the actress who played in that first Hulk movie with the Abomination in there and the leader, the same actress shows up. And I was just like, if you're going to have her here, it would have been perfect. It's like that would be the only thing that would calm him down. He hates you, Sam. What are we doing? But they didn't do that. It's just like, how did you miss that opportunity? That was stupid. So he beats, he goes back in and turns himself in. Isaiah, who was in prison because he tried to kill the president, gets released. I guess because, the leader's plot was found out, so they just release him. Sam goes to see the president in the raft, and he says this line about how basically, I don't know, he basically says this line of, and this is why I feel like this movie, I think it was originally really aimed more toward Trump. Because he says something along the lines of, hey, you fessed up to what you did was wrong. And you turned yourself in. And that's a good thing. That's not for nothing. You took accountability for your own actions and what you did. And then you moved aside so that other people could move ahead and take over. The right people. I try not to do this too much, but knowing these freaks in Hollywood, I really feel like that was meant for Trump. Like, you've done wrong, you're evil, you're this angry orange man, but you accepted accountability for your sins, and then you stepped aside. And Harrison Ford's all smiling in the raft, and he's all happy, and he's like, yeah, it feels good. And it's just like, oh, and then his daughter shows up, and she's like, hey, Dad. And he's like, hey. So that's how the movie ends. I don't think there's anything else. Falcon shows up to see Falcon number 2 in the hospital, and there's a little joking back and forth. Oh, he survives, and it's all good. And then the movie ends. And that's it. We're finally done. That's the whole movie. So now you don't have to go watch it. Wow. What can I say, guys? It sucked. I didn't like it. I thought it was crap. I was like, man, is this really what you're going to do? Missed a huge opportunity with the Red Hulk's daughter. She could have calmed him down. The initial reaction of why he got so angry in the first place didn't make much sense. The leader's plan was sloppy at best, and there was just so many jangling, moving parts. It was just like, well, I don't know. I'll kind of give an excuse for Zemo's plan and the Civil War. That had a lot of moving parts, but the movie was overall great. So it's like, well, the leader, but I never really felt like he was intimidating, and not in a muscle kind of sense, but even as a genius, I never felt like he was the genius, the mastermind. Like, he just felt like this discount worker who got fired from his job and was like doing some bad stuff. Never felt like Sam was Captain America. Nothing landed, and then in the fights, there were some scenes during the action that were just so cheap, like especially whenever Sam and Falcon number 2 would like land, and they would land sometimes from flying in the air. It was so quick, and it felt like there were no gravitas to it. Like, it wasn't believable. Like, whenever you see Tony Stark land, or the Thor land, you know, and fly and stuff, it's like, well, yeah, it's superpowers, but it makes sense in this universe. You can kind of feel it. The weight, the sound, the way it's shot, you know? Most of the time, there were a lot of times in this movie where the CGI was just thick, where it felt like, man, I don't believe this at all. Like, this is silly. The Wakanda powers are stupid. Sometimes he had powers, sometimes it seemed like he didn't, sometimes it was like he was invulnerable, and then other times it was just like, oh, I guess not. And then Little Miss breaking through and beating the hell out of everyone, and by the end of the movie she was worthless. And then there was this one stupid scene whenever the Red Hulk is changing and the president is changing into the Red Hulk. She's just there. Like, there are all these agents there, and they're like really pushy. They're like, move, and he's getting pissed. I think they pissed him off the most. This chick right here pisses him off. And when he turns into the Hulk, she's just standing there looking at him with her gun drawn, and all the other agents run, and then Sam shows up, and she's the only one in this giant area. All the reporters, everyone runs, but she's just standing there with a gun, like, all confident. She's like, ah, and I'm just like, who are you? What are you doing in this movie? It was so silly. But she survives, I guess. So there's that. I guess the United States ended up with adamantium. The General Ross is now in the raft. The leader, I don't know. I guess he's been captured, and I think he's in the raft now too. And that's where we end it. It felt like a pissant. Like, it felt like it was trying to be Civil War or The Winter Soldier, but it was like really sloppy, really boring, and yeah. But now I've told you all about the movie, so you don't have to watch it. Oh, and we're almost at an hour, so I think I'm gonna have to end this video there because I'm dying. Guys, I suffered for you. I went through this and I suffered. So help me by making a YouTube account, which is free, and hitting that subscribe button and hitting that like button. And if you leave a comment in the comment description, it helps the algorithm too. I really appreciate it. So guys, that's all I've got for the day. And until next time, have a great freaking day.